In a distant land nestled between calm rivers and golden fields, there lived a king named Haruna, ruler known not for the size of his armies or the height of his palaces, but for the quiet strength of his heart. The scent of cinnamon bread from the kitchens drifted into the air, but his appetite was elsewhere. His mind wandered to stories of old dove kings who ruled from golden thrones, but had no knowledge of the weight their people carried. A journey was about to begin, not through forests or deserts, but through the souls of the people, through the alleys, the tea stalls, the baker's shops, and the worn-out benches outside the mosque where elders sat in soft chatter. Birds fluttered low across the streets, and the scent of cardamom tea and fresh bread slowly filled the air. But inside the palace, something rare was happening. The cobbled path was uneven, the buildings close together, casting long shadows even in the morning light. His hands were calloused, fingers trembling slightly with age. Yet he smiled warmly at every customer, even those who haggled harshly or didn't thank him. Harun sat beside him and watched quietly. He sipped water from a clay cup and closed his eyes, his heart full not of sadness or pity, but of gratitude. He was learning not from books or advisors, but from the lives that quietly carried his kingdom forward every day. He was still a king, yes, but now he was also a witness. And that, he knew, was the beginning of true leadership. "You have worked many years, haven't you?" he asked. The man chuckled, 47 to be exact. "I began as an apprentice when I was 12. Now I am just a pair of hands and a few stories." Harun smiled, deeply moved by the man's quiet pride. "Do you earn enough?" he asked gently. The cobbler looked up, thoughtful. "Enough to eat, not enough to rest. But I am content." Harun nodded slowly, learning more from that one sentence than from 100 court documents. Here lived the city's laborers, potters, tailors, spice sellers, and street cobblers. He listened to the laughter of women drawing water from the well, saw children weaving through the crowd with wooden toys, and heard whispers of worries, dreams, and small joys. Some families struggled with illness, others worried about drought or poor harvests, yet there was a grace in their struggle, a strength hidden beneath the dust and noise. He saw elders comforting the young, neighbors sharing bread, and tired hands still finding reasons to give thanks. And in that sea of ordinary life, King Harun began to understand a truth more powerful than gold or armies, that the soul of a nation lived not in palaces, but in its streets and the hearts of its people, humble and unseen. The king passed by a boy selling dates from a wooden cart. The child, no more than 8 or 9, had eyes as bright as stars, but clothes that were torn at the sleeve. Harun paused, reached into the small pouch he carried, and bought a few dates with a copper coin. The boy beamed, not knowing he had just fed the very man who ruled over his land. King Harun, ruler of a vast and peaceful realm, stood silently before a small mirror, dressed not in his royal garments of silk and embroidered gold, but in the plain linen tunic of a laborer. The cloth was coarse and simple, the color a faded beige that once might have belonged to a farmer or traveling scholar. His feet were bare, and his turban was tied not by his servants, but by his own careful hands. In this humble disguise, even his posture seemed different, not less noble, but quieter, more grounded, as though the very act of humility brought a new dignity to his frame. The king, once seated upon a marble throne, would soon sit beside a weaver or share bread with an orphan. "You look like them," he whispered, both proud and uncertain. Harun smiled gently and placed a comforting hand on Walid's shoulder. "Then I am ready." With that, the king stepped through a small side gate, one used only by stable hands and gardeners, and into the outer world. The air was cool and fragrant, filled with the smell of damp earth and morning fires being stoked for cooking. It had been many years since Harun had walked these streets without fanfare or escort. Now, no horns sounded, no crowds gathered. He was simply one man among many. And in doing so, he hoped not only to see his people but to truly know them. He did not want to be that kind of king. And so, after much prayer, quiet reflection, and long nights spent watching stars blink in the heavens above, Harun made a decision that would change the course of his life. He called only his most trusted servant, an old man named Walid, who had served him since boyhood. "Walid," the king said, his voice soft like the night breeze, "I wish to walk among my people, not as their ruler, but as one of them. Not to spy, not to judge, but to understand. To feel what they feel, to hear what they whisper when no robes of silk pass by." His kingdom, Al-Mahmud, was not loud with the clang of swords or the bustle of conquest. Instead, it whispered with the soft sounds of farmers sowing wheat, the gentle hum of markets filled with handmade cloth, and the peaceful chants of scholars reciting wisdom to eager children under trees that had seen generations pass. Harun ruled with fairness, and his advisors often praised him, reporting that all was well. But as seasons turned and the king aged with grace, a gentle unease began to grow in his heart like a breeze stirring the edges of a still lake. He began to wonder, was all truly well in the hearts of his people? Did the poor feel heard? Did the widows sleep with comfort? Were the lonely, the weak, and the old treated with care, or merely left behind in corners of the kingdom, unseen by noble eyes? One evening, while sitting in the courtyard under the pale sky just after sunset, Harun listened to the crackle of a small fire. Walid, though aged and wise, hesitated. "Your Majesty," he said, "you carry the hopes of a nation in your hands. Is it wise to walk the streets without the guards, without the crown?" But Harun smiled, and in that smile was something Walid had not seen in years, deep longing for truth, for connection. "A crown," the king whispered, "means little if I do not know the weight my people carry on their shoulders." And so, the plan began. Harun would exchange his royal robes for simple linen. He would cover his head with a modest turban and walk barefoot in some places, wearing the humble clothes of a wandering servant. No one would recognize him. No one would bow. No one would pretend. In this new silence, he hoped to hear more clearly. The stars blinked above as the wind picked up slightly, brushing against the walls of the palace as if to nod in quiet approval. The morning sun rose softly over the kingdom of Al-Mahmud, casting golden beams over rooftops made of warm clay and wooden tiles. Beside him, the old servant Walid stood with mist in his eyes. He began his journey through a narrow alley in the old quarter of the city, a place rarely mentioned in palace reports. Further down, Harun saw an elderly man kneeling by the street, repairing shoes for a few coins. As the sun climbed higher, Harun walked deeper into the neighborhoods most nobles never saw. As the day wore on, Harun rested beneath a fig tree near the public square. He sipped water from a clay cup and closed his eyes, his heart full not of sadness or pity but of gratitude. He was learning, not from books or advisors, but from the lives that quietly carried his kingdom forward every day. And rose, King Harun found himself standing before a humble food stall tucked between two old brick shops. The scent of lentils, cumin, and fresh flatbread wafted through the warm air, and the soft clatter of clay bowls being stacked brought a gentle rhythm to the moment. The vendor, a middle-aged woman with a broad smile and lines of laughter etched deep into her sun-kissed face, looked up as he approached. "And you, brother?" The older man asked kindly. "You look like you've seen both fields and books." The woman's house was small, a single room with 2 mats, a clay stove, and shelves lined with jars of spices and pickled lemons. Her daughter, a quiet girl of 10, greeted them with wide eyes. Harun sat humbly on the mat, sipping mint tea from a chipped cup, listening to them talk about school, neighbors, and the hopes of buying a new kettle someday. There was laughter and light in that modest room, and not once did they speak of politics or gold. Only of life, real, beautiful, ordinary life. Harun chuckled softly, humbled by how quickly they welcomed him without knowing his name. "I'm a traveler," he said. The moon above was bright and the streets were calm. He had shared a meal, carried a basket, and sipped tea in a stranger's home. And in doing so, he had discovered something far richer than jewels or titles: the honor of being welcomed by the people, not as a king, but as a brother. He knew now, more than ever, that true leadership began not with command, but with compassion, seeking stories more than coins. The two men smiled and nodded, accepting that answer without question. One offered him a dry date from his pouch. "Sweet things are better when shared," he said. Haroun took it, and in that moment he felt a warmth deeper than royal robes could offer. "Hungry, brother?" she asked, brushing her hands on her apron. Haroun nodded, his voice quiet and sincere. "Yes, I would be grateful." Oil lamps flickered, casting soft shadows on the dirt path. Haroun helped the food vendor gather her bowls and stack them neatly in a basket. "It's been a slow day," she sighed, "but I still have enough to bring dinner to my daughter." Haroun offered to carry the basket to her home. She hesitated, then nodded, touched by the gesture. "Only if you stay for tea," she smiled. He was still a king, yes, but now he was also a witness. And that, he knew, was the beginning of true leadership. No one recognized him, and for the first time in many years, he was just a Mano crown on his head, no guards at his side. The woman handed him a bowl of thick stew and a piece of freshly baked bread, still warm. "Eat well," she said. Haroun bowed his head gently. "May God reward your kindness." As the sun dipped lower into the sky, painting the rooftops of Al Mahmud with hues of honey, the two laborers beside him were discussing the day's wages. One had earned enough to buy medicine for his mother. The other was worried he wouldn't have enough to patch his roof before the rainy season. They spoke not with bitterness, but with the quiet determination of people who knew hardship well, yet carried on with faith. Haroun asked if they lived nearby. The younger one, barely more than a boy, said yes, in the old quarter near the east gate. "We share a room, but it's safe. And there's a fig tree in the courtyard that gives shade in the summer." He sat on a wooden bench, worn smooth by time, beside two other laborers finishing their meal. As he ate, he listened not with the ears of a ruler gathering intelligence, but as a guest, truly present. They turned to him next. As night fell, the lights of the marketplace began to dim. They walked together through winding alleys, past homes where the voices of evening prayers drifted gently through open windows. When he finally left that night, Haroun walked slowly beneath the stars. The moon above was bright, and the streets were calm. He had shared a meal, carried a basket, and sipped tea in a stranger's home. No longer as a ruler on a throne, but as a curious observer with dust on his robe and humility in his heart. One evening, after the marketplace had emptied and only the distant sounds of crickets and the rustle of laundry on old lines remained. "They say he is wise," the man said thoughtfully, sipping his tea. "But wisdom is not in decrees or palaces." One man, his voice frail but firm, spoke of his son taken too soon by illness and how the cost of medicine had left the family with little else. One of the men placed a hand on Haroun's shoulder. "You have kind eyes," he said. He paused, tracing the words with his fingers. They were old, but not forgotten. Much like the stories he had heard that night, soft-spoken truths waiting for someone to care enough to hear them. The world needs more men who look like they listen. Haroun bowed his head in silent thanks. He was beginning to see his people not as voices in petitions or names in census scrolls, but as hearts beating quietly through hardship and hope. He knew now that if he truly wished to rule justly, he must not only walk among them, but remember always the silence and strength of their stories. Another shared how he had once been a scribe in the palace archives, but now spent his days teaching letters to children beneath an old fig tree. "It is better," he said, "to teach one child to read than to be surrounded by gold and know nothing of the world." These words, simple as they were, sank deep into Haroun's heart. The humility, the endurance, and the quiet dignity of these men stirred something ancient in him, something that perhaps had been buried under velvet and protocol. It's in knowing when to listen and when to walk where others fear to tread. Harun felt a wave of stillness move through him. In that moment, he realized how deeply the elders treasured the idea of a ruler who saw them not as subjects, but as souls with hopes, struggles, and wisdom of their own. Harun found himself drawn to a quiet alley, lit by nothing more than a single lantern swaying in the breeze. There, beneath its soft golden light, sat three elderly men gathered around a wooden board carved with the lines of a game, old familiar, like the tales told by firelight. And in doing so, he had discovered something far richer than jewels or titles: the honor of being welcomed by the people, not as a king, but as a brother. He knew now more than ever that true leadership began not with command, but with compassion. The days passed slowly, like sand slipping through gentle fingers, and Harun continued his quiet journey through the narrow lanes and shadowed courtyards of his own city. Harun greeted them with a respectful nod. One of the men, bald with a beard as white as flour, gestured for him to sit. "New to these parts?" he asked, peering at him over the rim of his cup. Harun smiled gently. "Passing through," he replied, as was now his usual way. The game continued, their wrinkled hands moving small stones across the board with the careful grace of men who had lived long enough to savor silence. What began as a few questions about the game soon blossomed into stories, long, winding ones filled with memories of youth, of breadlines during droughts, of the kindness of neighbors, and of a time when rulers walked beside their people rather than above them. One of the men spoke of the king Harun himself, unaware that the very man they were speaking of was sitting quietly before them. The conversation turned softly toward the burdens people carried. As the night deepened and stars spread like scattered pearls above, Harun helped them pack up the board and carry the wooden bench inside. Walking back to his small rented room that night, Harun passed a crumbling wall where someone had painted, in faded letters, the words, "Justice is the lamp of the land." In his chamber, lit by a single oil flame, Harun sat cross-legged and thought deeply. He was beginning to see his people not as voices in petitions or names in census scrolls, but as hearts beating quietly through hardship and hope. He knew now that if he truly wished to rule justly, he must not only walk among them, but remember always the silence and strength of their stories. The morning sun peeked through the wooden shutters of the small room where Harun had rested, casting soft golden lines across the stone floor. Birds chirped quietly outside, and a gentle breeze carried the earthy scent of baked bread and distant gardens. It was said that the people who lived there were poor but proud, earning their living through honest crafts: pottery, weaving, farming, and other humble trades. The streets there were quieter, shaded by fig trees and long mud walls lined with clay pots drying in the sun. Years ago, she had been left a widow, raising 4 children with only her weaving skills to support them. "Honesty is like water," she continued. "You cannot see it at a glance, but if it's missing, the land dries and everything cracks. A nation without honesty breaks, little by little." Times had been hard, yet she never begged, never borrowed. He didn't speak, for there was something sacred in her simplicity. She continued weaving palm leaves into a basket as she spoke, hands never still, voice always calm. She spoke of how many people had come offering her easy wealth in exchange for lies or flattery, but she always refused. "I told them," she said, with a gentle firmness, "I would rather eat dry bread in peace than dine on riches earned through falsehood. I told my children," she said, "we will eat little, but we will never eat from dishonest hands." Harun smiled and replied, "Yes, I am learning the ways of this place." The woman motioned for him to sit on a low bench beside the well. Harun felt the weight of leadership grow heavier, but not with burden, with purpose. Because to lead such people, he now knew, was not to command from above, but to serve from within. "Then listen," she said. "This city teaches, if your heart is open. May your path be guided by truth," she said, with a soft smile, then turned to leave. Harun remained seated for a while, watching the last drops from the well shimmer under the sun. Children ran barefoot across the dusty paths, laughing as they played with wooden hoops and small pebbles. She was not famous. She was not titled. But her words carried more strength than a royal decree. There was peace in their joy, pure and undisturbed by the noise of the city center. Haroun rose, folded his sleeping mat, and washed his face with water poured from a clay jug, just as any traveler would. Their voices were soft, their heads covered with modest shawls, and their hands calloused from years of labor. Among them stood an elderly woman, perhaps in her 60s, drawing a heavy bucket of water with steady hands. Her face, though lined with age, held a calm dignity. As she rested the water pot on a stone ledge, she noticed Haroun standing nearby, watching with quiet respect. This was his new routine. Simple, honest, and far from the luxuries of the palace. That morning, he chose to walk farther than before, down to a part of the city he had only heard mentioned in passing Potter's Well. Haroun stopped at a communal well, where women were drawing water. "You look new here," she said gently, her voice kind. She began to tell him her story, not in a way that sought sympathy, but simply to share wisdom. Her eyes glistened slightly, not with sorrow, but with memory. Haroun listened intently. Before Haroun could ask her name, she stood and lifted the water pot to her shoulder with grace that only experience could shape. That day, Haroun learned not through speeches or books, but through the soul of a woman who had weathered life's storms with integrity and grace. As he walked back through the narrow paths of Potter's Well, past the laughter of children and the sound of clay being shaped into vessels, Haroun felt the weight of leadership grow heavier, but not with burden, with purpose. Because to lead such people, he now knew, was not to command from above, but to serve from within. Haroun found himself wandering into a quieter corner of the city, a place where narrow alleys wound between modest homes, and the scent of sawdust hung gently in the air. This was the district of the carpenters, a neighborhood known for shaping the very wood that built homes, furniture, and even cradles for newborn children. As evening shadows lengthened and the sounds of the market slowly faded into a soft hush, curious and guided by the peaceful rhythm of hammering, he stepped closer. "Come in, traveler," the carpenter said, brushing wood shavings from a stool. "You look like someone who carries more thoughts than baggage." This was not someone rich in gold, but someone rich in heart. In the palace, surrounded by polished marble and thick carpets, he had often seen wealth mistaken for worth. "A gift," he said. Instead, he sat by the side of a small fountain, thinking deeply under the stars. He had learned once again that true nobility was not born of title, but of sacrifice. That the truest servants were those who served others quietly, without ever seeking praise. "This morning," she said, "the bowl was empty. But Allah fills hearts even when cupboards are bare." Her words were neither bitter nor pitifully sincere. She told him of her husband, a baker who had passed many years ago, and of her 3 sons, each taken by illness or war. Alone, she now sewed simple garments for a nearby merchant in return for a few coins, barely enough to last through the week. "Hope, my son. Hope in Allah's mercy. Hope that even in silence He listens. And hope that the kindness I once gave will return not to me, perhaps, but to someone who needs it." Yet there was no complaint in her voice, only quiet acceptance. "For your journey." She opened it to reveal letters, faded, folded pieces of parchment written by her sons before their passing. Each one carried words of love, dua, and honor. "I read these when the nights feel too long," she said softly, eyes misting. "They remind me I was once a mother with laughter in my home. I have nothing to give you," she said, "but take this bowl. It has held little, yet taught me much. May it remind you that even emptiness can carry wisdom. May you always walk with clarity, even when the path is dark." As he stepped back into the golden light of morning, he carried more than just a bowl. He carried the quiet strength of a mother, the patience of loss, and the unwavering beauty of faith. He realized that his crown had brought him power, but these moments among his people were teaching him how to rule with heart. Here was a woman who had lost nearly everything yet clung not to sadness, but to gratitude. She did not curse her fate, nor speak of hardship with anger. Instead, she spoke of neighbors who sometimes shared food, a little girl next door who visited to hear her stories, and the joy of watching birds nest on her roof each spring. Her heart, though weathered by years, beat with quiet contentment. But here, under the humblest roof, a man worked through the night, not for profit, but for promise. His words were not rehearsed, but real, his fingers rough, but his soul refined. The carpenter then reached for an old, slightly worn prayer mat from a corner and placed it carefully to one side. "Before I finish, I always pause and ask Allah for barakah not in wealth, but in the hands that receive my work. Because I made a promise to a groom whose wedding is in 3 days." His journey through the hearts of his people had already revealed kindness, endurance, and quiet dignity. Yet he knew the soul of a kingdom could not be fully known without stepping into the homes where sorrow and strength lived side by side. That morning, his feet took him toward the outskirts of the city where the roofs were simpler, the stones more worn, and the walls thinner against the cold. "This chest is his gift to his bride he saved for months." He knocked gently, expecting nothing, but a frail voice responded, "Enter, if you come with peace." Inside, he met an elderly woman, wrapped in a faded shawl, sitting cross-legged beside a cold stove. Her hair was silver, her hands calloused, yet her posture was proud. Harun greeted her with warmth and was welcomed in without question, as was the custom of generosity, even among those with little. "I could not let him down, even if it means losing sleep." Inside, a man in his early 40s worked alone by candlelight, carefully carving patterns into a wooden chest. As he poured Harun a small cup of warm barley tea, he began to share pieces of his life, how his father had been a carpenter before him, and how each tool in the shop had its own history and soul. "I don't just carve wood," he said. "I carve prayers into each piece. When I make a cradle, I pray the baby sleeps safely. When I make a door, I ask that peace enters through it." His movements were precise, yet weary. His eyes were tired, but his heart seemed fully present in every gentle tap of the chisel. The streets were calm now, but Harun noticed a dim light still glowing from one open workshop. Harun stood silently at the doorway until the man looked up and offered a quiet smile. Harun sat, thanking him, and asked gently, "Why do you work so late, brother?" The carpenter chuckled softly, placing his chisel aside. Harun was struck by the selflessness in his voice. The man spoke not with complaint, but with honor. Harun, listening intently, felt the warmth of the man's sincerity. The king's heart stirred deeply. As Harun rose to leave, the carpenter handed him a small carved tokona, simple piece of wood shaped like a crescent moon. Harun walked back through the quiet streets, his fingers wrapped gently around the smooth carving. That night, he did not return to the inn. As dawn gently approached and the first call to prayer echoed through the city's sleepy silence, Harun rose from his rest beneath the open sky. There, he found a small clay home with a crooked wooden door and a single window lit by the pale glow of morning. She served him water in an old copper cup and apologized for not having tea or bread. As she spoke, Harun noticed a small wooden box beside her, carefully carved and worn smooth by time. Harun sat still, deeply moved. The king gently asked, "What keeps you going each day?" She smiled, her eyes shining. Before Harun left, she reached for the empty bowl by her stove. Harun bowed his head with deep respect, accepting the humble gift. As he stepped back into the golden light of morning, he carried more than just a bowl. He carried the quiet strength of a mother, the patience of loss, and the unwavering beauty of faith. He realized that his crown had brought him power, but these moments among his people were teaching him how to rule with heart. The sun had begun to rise higher in the sky, casting long golden beams through the alleys of Baghdad. Harun walked steadily, his servant's cloak still wrapped about him, though his shoulders now carried not just fabric, but the stories of those whose lives he had touched. Before him lay a few wooden bowls, each holding small hand-carved items, beads, buttons, simple toys. Not a single customer had stopped. Passersby were too busy bartering for silk or counting coins to notice him, and the mingling aromas of cardamom, dates, leather, and dust. It was a world of voices, some loud, some soft, some urgent, and others singing lullabies to woven baskets or gently displayed herbs, and turned it over in his hands. Though rough in form, it carried something precious, the soul of the maker. But sometimes someone stops. And even one kind word can feed a soul for days. How many walk past without a word? He asked. Yet within this sea of sound, the king's attention was drawn not to the richest vendor or the finest goods, but perhaps, deep down, he knew. For he said, if you ever find yourself in a place of power, may you never forget the corner where a blind man once sat and taught you about seeing. He invited Harun to sit and shared his story, of once being a calligrapher, a man of letters who wrote the Quran by hand with care and reverence. But in the patience of this forgotten man who still gave back to the world despite what had been taken from him. For in the shadows of the marketplace he had found another kind of light, the kind that does not fade with time, but glows quietly in the memory of every soul it touches. But age and illness had stolen his sight. Still, he had refused to beg. You have carved more than wood, he said. You've carved courage. Instead, he carved small things from memory, shapes he could still feel, and sold them for whatever people offered. I cannot see beauty now, he said, but I can still create it. But to a blind man sitting silently against the wall of an old spice shop, each footstep seemed to carry the voice of a child, a widow, a worker, a hopeful soul. He moved with purpose now, but without haste, for he had learned that true understanding cannot be rushed. On this morning, he entered the city's great market, a vast space of woven canopies, colorful tents. The man wore a turban that had faded under years of sun, and his eyes, clouded and unseeing, were fixed ahead, as if watching a world long gone. Harun approached quietly and greeted him with peace. The blind man smiled, sensing kindness. He asked, "What brings you to an old man's corner when there is gold and fragrance to chase?" The king replied, "I came not for riches, but for truth, and truth often hides in quiet places." The blind man chuckled softly. "Then you are wiser than you seem, son." Harun was moved. He took one of the small toys, a wooden camel. "Most," the old man said gently, "but I do not blame them. The world is loud, and hearts are often tired." The king looked around and saw the irony. The wealth of the market was not in the gold or jewels. Harun, still hidden in his disguise, bought every item the blind man had. The blind man smiled, unaware he had just spoken to his king. And with that, Harun left the market, his heart heavier with humility and lighter with wisdom. For in the shadows of the marketplace he had found another kind of light, the kind that does not fade with time, but glows quietly in the memory of every soul it touches. The air was still as evening descended over Baghdad. Lamps flickered along the narrow streets, casting a gentle amber glow upon walls that had witnessed centuries of stories. As the call to prayer echoed softly across the rooftops, Harun al-Rashid made his way back to the palace, not as a ruler returning in glory, but as a servant returning with the weight of wisdom. His journey had taken him deep into the heart of his people, into the homes of the humble, the workshops of the forgotten, and the silent corners of the market where honor lived quietly in those who had little else. What he had seen had not broken him, but had awakened something ancient and sacred within. The realization that leadership was not about commands from thrones or the gold that lined palaces, but about walking among the people with sincerity and understanding. The woman who sold warm bread was given a small bakery and guards to protect her from cruel lenders. He walked slowly in the garden, greeted servants by name, and listened longer during court. He often gazed out over the city at dusk, silently, as if waiting for the wind to carry him the voice of a forgotten story. I wear the crown here, but I found my honor out there, in the smile of a poor mother, in the silence of a wise blind man, and in the tears of a child who never asked for a throne but simply wanted warmth. The young boy with injured feet found a physician at his door and a teacher to guide his mind. The blind carver in the market suddenly had customers lining up to buy his crafts, and a roof repaired above his head. He stepped through the palace gates with his servant's cloak still wrapped around him. But for justice, dignity, and the strange but beautiful tale of the king who had once vanished into the crowd. Some thought it was legend, others believed it truly happened. His advisors rushed forward, puzzled by his disheveled state, his dusty slippers, and the slight weariness in his eyes, and the prayers he made for those who had unknowingly taught him the greatest lesson of all, that a ruler who does not walk among his people cannot truly serve them. And that true power is not in commanding crowds, but in humbling one's heart. They offered to bring him fine robes and food, to prepare speeches and summon the court. But with reflection, a king closed his eyes each night, remembering the journey that changed him, not through might, but through mercy. But Haroun raised a gentle hand and said, "Not tonight. Tonight, I need silence, and my lord." He went to his private chamber, and there, in solitude, he removed the cloak. He did not toss it aside, but folded it carefully, as one would fold a memory too precious to lose. For it was no longer just a disguise. It was a symbol of what he had seen and who he had chosen to become. In the days that followed, the kingdom began to change, not with force, but with quiet revolutions of mercy and justice. But what puzzled the people most was not the generosity of the changes. It was the kindness behind them, as though someone had truly seen them. The advisors noticed changes too. The king now asked more questions and spoke less in judgment. One day, a trusted servant asked him, "My king, why do you look so often to the streets below?" Haroun smiled and replied, "Because out there is where truth walks in sandals, not in gold." Years passed, and his reign became known not just for its wealth or military strength, but only Haroun, in the quiet of his room, knew the weight of the cloak folded in his chest of memories. And so, through the starlit skies of Baghdad, in a palace filled not with pride, he slept not as a ruler, but as a servant of justice. And thus ends the story, soft as a whisper, gentle as prayer, of the king who became great by walking in the footsteps of the people he served. In a small, quiet village nestled between gentle hills and flowing rivers, where the mornings often greeted the world with soft mist and the evenings ended in tender shades of pink and gold, there lived a woman named Leela. She was known to few, but those who knew her carried her kindness quietly in their hearts, much like the way the dawn carries light across the sleeping earth. The village was peaceful, yet life there, like anywhere, carried its share of hardships and struggles. What set Lila apart, though, was not her possessions or status, but the gentle warmth she carried for all living things, especially those whom others often overlooked, the stray animals wandering through the village. Lila's home was modest, a simple cottage covered in climbing ivy, with a small garden bursting quietly with wildflowers and herbs. Perhaps it was a quiet response to the soft-eyed creatures she had watched wandering when she was a child, or a feeling grown in her heart from simple love. What mattered was how she lived it each day, in a way so natural it seemed woven into the very fabric of the village's dawn. She never told her story or asked for thanks. To her, feeding these creatures was a quiet, joyous, sacred moment of connection between lives. And in return, she found a peace that was deep and unshakable, like a still pond reflecting the sky. Each morning, as the first light of day crept softly over the horizon, Lila began her quiet ritual. and farmers tending their fields, Lila's simple act remained a quiet thread of love weaving through the day. This was a story of gentleness, a soft tale of care, quietly told by the paw prints and feathers left behind in the soft earth. She prepared food with care, not just any food, but simple meals made from leftovers, scraps, and fresh bread she baked herself. Lila's kindness was not grand or loud, but small and persistent, like drops of rain patiently shaping the earth over time. The stray cats, with their sleek fur glistening faintly in the morning light, stretched languidly on sun-warmed cobblestones. The animals followed her steps as if guided by an invisible thread of trust, their presence a quiet company in the soft morning light. And wildflowers, Lila's story lived quietly on, whispered softly through the rustling leaves and gentle breezes. It was a story woven from patience and tenderness, from the quiet moments that hold the deepest meaning. Some smiled quietly as they saw Lila's gentle routine unfold. Others offered a nod or a small wave. Yet none spoke much of it. For kindness like this, they knew, was best left untouched by words and honored instead by silent respect. The soft pulse of care that beats quietly beneath the surface of the world, inviting you to rest and dream. They waited not just for the food she brought, but for the calm presence that seemed to soothe the very air around them. Imagine walking with Lila in that peaceful village, step by step, feeding the forgotten and the small, wrapped in kindness beneath the vast and tender sky. She set down a shallow bowl of fresh water, sparkling like liquid crystal, and a few pieces of bread torn just so, enough to nourish but never waste. Her kitchen smelled faintly of honey and cinnamon, soft aromas that mixed with the early morning air as she stepped outside with her small baskets. Her footsteps, slow and measured, carried her through the village lanes, each step a humble offering of care and compassion. The village dogs, cats, and even the shy birds in the trees seemed to know the gentle sound of her footsteps. She often paused to observe the animals, the way the tiny sparrows hopped playfully in the dust, or how the tired old dog curled up beneath the shade of a blossoming tree, his eyes closing in peaceful slumber. With patient patience, she would spread the food along the dusty paths, beneath the gnarled old oak tree, and near the cool waters of the village well. She never hurried, never rushed her. Every movement was deliberate and kind, like a slow, comforting song. No one could say exactly when Lila began her daily kindness. The animals, often wary and cautious around people, grew to trust her over time. A thin black cat, once shy and wild-eyed, would now brush gently against her ankles. A small, scruffy dog, missing a patch of fur, would wag his tail slowly, eyes warm with gratitude. Even the birds, flitting above, seemed to pause in their flight, chirping soft notes that mingled with the morning breeze. Lila did not seek attention or praise, as the village slowly woke around her, with children laughing in the streets. Tonight, as you close your eyes and feel the calm sweep gently over you like a slow river. As the sun climbed higher, painting the sky with soft strokes of peach and lavender, Lila's day continued with the same quiet grace that had marked its gentle beginning. In the heart of the village, near the ancient stone fountain that murmured softly with flowing water, a small gathering of animals awaited her arrival. Lila greeted each of them with soft words, though the animals did not understand her language. They somehow felt the kindness that wrapped her voice like a gentle blanket. The village itself bustled with life, but Lila's world was quiet and steady, like a secret melody played softly beneath the louder songs of daily chores and bustling markets. These moments of stillness were sacred, a gentle reminder of the beauty that often goes unnoticed. As she moved on, her basket now lighter, Lila carried with her the subtle warmth of connection, a feeling born from the simple act of giving without expectation, of sharing without desire. The villagers, though busy in their own lives, had come to notice these daily visits. And so, in this peaceful village where the air carried the scent of earth, as you listen now, drifting slowly like a leaf on a calm stream, feel yourself wrapped in that gentle rhythm. the soft pulse of care that beats quietly beneath the surface of the world, inviting you to rest and dream. As the afternoon sun cast its golden glow across the village rooftops, Leela's heart remained gently tethered to her quiet mission of kindness. The animals, scattered like small, living poems across the village, were more than just creatures in need. They were silent companions in a world that often moved too quickly to notice the soft and tender moments. Lila's hands, worn but gentle, carried the simple tools of her care: a cloth to wipe weary eyes, a small brush to smooth tangled fur, and fresh bundles of herbs she had gathered from the nearby meadows. Her voice was barely above a whisper, soft as the wind stirring through the olive branches overhead. These sounds, though ordinary, were part of a soothing symphony that wrapped the village in a comforting embrace. "You are safe here," she murmured, as her fingers brushed lightly through the kitten's soft fur. It was this intangible gift that Lila gave most freely, a balm for the loneliness that often shadows the lives of those who wander without a home. It was a truth written not in grand gestures, but in the gentle rhythm of everyday kindness. These herbs, picked with care and a deep knowledge passed down through her family, held soothing properties, calming the nerves of restless animals and cleansing their wounds with a gentle touch. Feel the tender pulse of care that connects us all, and let it lull you deeper into restful dreams where the world is calm and kindness reigns softly in every corner. She knelt beside a trembling kitten, barely weeks old, its eyes wide with cautious trust. Around her, the world hummed quietly with the sounds of life: the distant laughter of children playing, the faint clinking of pottery from nearby homes, and the gentle rustle of leaves in the warm breeze. The animals sensed this calm, responding not just to food or shelter, but to the warmth of presence, a steady, unspoken promise that they were seen and valued. The weight of the day softened in this quiet moment, replaced by a sense of belonging, a reminder that even in the smallest acts of care, a powerful story unfolds. In the cool shade beneath a spreading fig tree, Lila rested briefly, her eyes closing as she breathed in the peaceful air. This story, like a soft breeze weaving through the branches, carried a message as old as time: that compassion, no matter how humble, has the strength to heal and transform. As night draws near and you begin to settle into the softness of sleep, let the quiet strength of Leela's gentle heart fill your thoughts. Feel the tender pulse of care that connects us all, and let it lull you deeper into restful dreams where the world is calm and kindness reigns softly in every corner. As the sun dipped lower, casting long amber shadows across the cobblestone streets, the village seemed to settle into a slower, softer rhythm. The bustle of midday gave way to a hushed calm, as if the world itself was preparing to rest. In this gentle quiet, Lila's daily journey of care continued with a serene purpose, each step measured and full of tender intention. Lila smiled, her heart swelling with quiet joy at the harmony of life surrounding her. She gently scattered a handful of seeds, watching as the tiny birds fluttered down eagerly, their feathers catching the fading light like drops of gold. The animals gathered around her like old friends, sensing the evening's promise of comfort. The animals, once weary and alone, had found a sanctuary in Lila's kindness, and in return, they offered her a gentle companionship that warmed her soul. Feel the cool night air brushing gently against your skin, hear the soft rustle of leaves, and sense the calm companionship of creatures resting peacefully beside you. Let this peaceful scene carry you softly into dreams where kindness and calmness are your guides, and where every breath brings you closer to restful slumber. A weathered dog with kind eyes and a patch of white fur around his muzzle approached slowly, his gait careful but hopeful. Lila knelt down, her hands immediately reaching for the small bowl she had brought. Filled with warm broth and freshly torn bread, the dog's tail wagged softly, a silent thank you spoken in a language older than words. Here, beneath the canopy of leaves whispering in the evening breeze, she reflected on the simple beauty of these daily rituals: feeding, tending, and being present. Nearby, a cluster of sparrows chirped softly from the branches above, their delicate songs weaving into the peaceful tapestry of twilight. Even the shyest creatures seemed drawn to her gentle presence. A stray cat that often hid in the shadows came forward cautiously tonight, rubbing its head against Leela's hand before curling up contentedly at her feet. The bond between them was unspoken, built slowly through countless moments of trust and kindness. As the air cooled and stars began to twinkle softly above, Leela wrapped a worn shawl around her shoulders and settled beside an ancient olive tree, her favorite resting spot. These moments, though quiet and unassuming, were filled with a deep magic, a reminder that care, when given freely and without expectation, creates ripples far beyond what we can see. As you lie down now, letting your body sink into the soft embrace of sleep, imagine yourself in that tranquil olive grove. Feel the cool night air brushing gently against your skin. Hear the soft rustle of leaves, and sense the calm companionship of creatures resting peacefully beside you. Let this peaceful scene carry you softly into dreams where kindness and calmness are your guides, and where every breath brings you closer to restful slumber. Night deepened softly around the village, wrapping the streets in a velvety stillness that felt like a gentle lullaby. Here, she would prepare special treats, little bundles of herbs, soaked bread, or warm milk carefully saved from the day's cooking. These small gifts were tokens of her love, reminders that each life mattered, no matter how small or forgotten. Leela's work was never hurried. It followed the quiet rhythm of nature itself, slow, steady, and kind. The worries of the day melted away, replaced by a profound sense of belonging, a reminder that even the smallest acts of kindness ripple outward, touching lives in ways we may never fully see. Know that here, in this peaceful space, you are safe and cherished. With every breath, sink deeper into calmness, carried gently toward a night of restful, healing sleep. As you listen now, feel yourself wrapped in this same gentle warmth, breathing slowly and deeply, letting your thoughts drift like leaves on a calm stream. Some saw only the stray animals that wandered the village, but Leela saw stories written in their eyes, stories of survival, of loneliness, and of trust slowly built over time. She understood that her kindness was a balm, healing invisible wounds that no one else noticed. She knew that care was not just about filling bowls or giving scraps. It was about patience, presence, and the tender connection woven between her and the creatures she tended. Each evening, after her rounds of feeding, Leela would sit for a moment in the warmth of her small kitchen, the soft glow of a single candle flickering on the wooden table. Her neighbors often wondered about her quiet dedication. Outside, the moon climbed higher, casting a gentle silver light that painted the village in soft shadows. The animals had settled in close, a dog resting its head on Leela's lap, a cat curled by her feet, and even a few birds nestled quietly in nearby branches. The peaceful scene was like a living painting of calm and care, a secret world where love spoke softly without words. In this quiet, Leela's heart felt full. Let your mind wander to that cozy kitchen, to the soft candlelight, and to the quiet companions resting near you. Know that here, in this peaceful space, you are safe and cherished. With every breath, sink deeper into calmness, carried gently toward a night of restful, healing sleep. Leela's day started gently, just like the morning light, quiet, calm, and full of promise. Leela wrapped a light shawl around her shoulders and stepped outside, feeling the soft earth beneath her feet and listening to the faint chirping of early birds welcoming the new day. Her movements were slow and deliberate, each step a small meditation in itself. As she gathered baskets filled with fresh breadcrumbs, warm milk, and little treats she had lovingly prepared the night before, she knew the importance of this gentle greeting, a way to reassure each creature that they were safe, loved, and not forgotten. As you listen now, imagine yourself there, in that serene village at daybreak. breathing in the fresh morning air and feeling the soft warmth of care that surrounds everything. The animals she cared for became her gentle companions in this peaceful rhythm of life, each one carrying a story of survival, hope, and the tender bond formed through simple acts of kindness. Let this peaceful scene fill your mind as you relax deeper into calmness, allowing sleep to come softly, like the gentle rise and fall of a quiet breath. And a wise old crow that watched silently from the branches above, its glossy feathers shimmering in the sunlight. She spoke to them in whispers, sharing secrets and stories as if they were old friends gathered around a warm hearth. Let this calm, loving energy wash over you, easing your thoughts and guiding you gently toward restful sleep. In caring for those who cannot care for themselves and in the peaceful cycles of nature, it was a simple kind of magic, one that did not shout or demand attention, but whispered softly, inviting all who would listen to slow down and breathe. The world around them seemed to slow, wrapped in the soft murmur of life quietly unfolding, the rustle of leaves in a gentle breeze, the distant hum of village chores beginning, and the faint melody of a nearby brook flowing calmly over smooth stones. They did not speak in words, but their presence was comforting, like silent friends who understood the language of care. Watching them eat, she found joy in the simple moments of connection, the soft rustle of leaves, the gentle lapping of water, and the calm that settled between them all. Before the world fully stirred, she would rise and prepare herself for the hours ahead, knowing that the animals she cared for awaited her with hopeful eyes and wagging tails. As dawn began to stretch its soft fingers across the sky, painting the horizon with hues of delicate pink and gold, the village slowly awoke from its peaceful slumber. The air was cool and fresh, carrying the faint scent of dew-kissed grass and blooming flowers. Near the stone well that shimmered in the morning light, and along the cobbled streets where the sunlight began to dance. One by one, the animals came out of their hiding places, their eyes brightening at the sight of Lila, their gentle caretaker. Some were shy and cautious, while others greeted her with eager tails and soft purrs. But all shared the quiet trust that had grown over months of kindness. Her footsteps led her to the corners of the village where the stray animals found shelter, under the wide branches of an ancient oak tree. As she placed the food and water down, Leela spoke softly, her voice like a warm breeze that soothed both animal and soul. In these quiet mornings, there was a profound sense of harmony, the world waking slowly, and kindness flowing gently from one heart to another. As the sun climbed higher, casting a warm, golden glow over the village rooftops, Lila continued her daily journey, moving slowly from place to place with a heart full of quiet love. Among these creatures were a few who had become especially dear to her. A small scruffy dog with soulful eyes who followed her faithfully. A shy gray cat that always appeared just as she laid down fresh food. Lila's hands moved with practiced grace, smoothing the rough fur of a tired dog or gently brushing away fallen leaves from a resting cat's side. In these moments, Lila felt a deep connection not only to the animals, but to the natural world itself, a reminder of the quiet beauty found in everyday life now. As you lie here, imagine yourself walking alongside Lila, feeling the warmth of the morning sun on your skin and the soft companionship of gentle creatures at your side. Let this calm, loving energy wash over you, easing your thoughts and guiding you gently toward restful sleep. As the day unfolded slowly beneath a soft, pale blue sky, Lila's gentle footsteps carried her through winding cobblestone streets and quiet gardens, her presence like a calming breeze that seemed to settle over the village. Each morning, she performed her peaceful rituals of care with a quiet dedication, her movements deliberate yet tender, as though she were weaving a delicate tapestry of kindness with every small action. She began with the careful preparation of the food she carried in her woven basket, a mixture of fresh breadcrumbs, bits of fruit, and soft scraps gathered from the nearby market. To Leela, this was more than just feeding. It was a sacred act of nurturing, a way to honor the lives of those who had no other means to sustain themselves. Her clothes, simple but neat, carried the faint scent of herbs and earth, mingling with the subtle aroma of fresh bread. There was a peacefulness to her appearance, as if the calm she nurtured in the village also lived quietly within her. With hands weathered gently by time, but never rough, she would sprinkle the food in little piles beneath the sheltering branches of trees or beside sun-warmed stones where the animals liked to rest. Let your mind settle into the soothing rhythm of her day, the soft footsteps on stone, the gentle clinking of pottery, the tender sounds of animals eating and drinking. Let this calm fill your body and mind, releasing the worries of the day and inviting you toward restful sleep. The gentle sway of wildflowers growing along forgotten paths. The distant sound of children's laughter drifting softly like a lullaby on the breeze. There was comfort in the routine, in the knowing that through her care, she was weaving threads of kindness into the fabric of daily life, not only for the animals, but for herself too. This gentle work was a meditation, a slow unfolding of compassion that settled softly over her spirit like a warm shawl. And as the sun climbs ever higher, know that this calm will stay with you, guiding you softly into the world of dreams. These small details, often overlooked by busy passers-by, were treasures to Leela, reminders of the beauty that thrived even in simplicity and quiet. Between feeding, she would pause to wash fresh water in shallow bowls fashioned from old clay pots, placing them carefully where the sun could warm the liquid to a comforting temperature. The animals came to know these simple rituals, the rustling sound of the basket, the soft clink of pottery, the gentle splash of water, as signs of Leela's return and a promise of care. Some would approach cautiously at first, their eyes wide with hesitant hope, while others would rest near her feet with quiet confidence, their trust earned through countless mornings like this one. Watching her, you could see the reverence in her eyes, the way she noticed every detail. The twitch of a whisker, the flutter of a feather, the subtle shifts in posture that told a story of trust or wariness. There was a language there, unspoken but deeply felt, a communication born from years of patient attention. In this quiet exchange, Leela was both guardian and friend, offering safety through her unwavering presence. Her day moved slowly, each moment savored like a precious pearl strung onto a necklace of time. Leela's own hands bore the marks of her labor's small calluses, softened by frequent washing. Faint traces of soil from the gardens she tended when not with the animals. As she moved from place to place, she noticed the changing colors of the day, the way the sunlight filtered softly through leaves, casting playful shadows on the stone walls. Her heart held a quiet joy, not loud or boisterous, but deep and steady, like the roots of the ancient trees that shaded the village square. As you listen now, imagine yourself walking beside Leela through this peaceful village, feeling the warmth of the sun, hearing the soft rustle of leaves, and sensing the quiet breath of life all around. With each slow breath, feel yourself drifting deeper into peace, carried gently on the wings of kindness and the quiet song of care that Leela sings with every act. And as the sun climbs ever higher, know that this calm will stay with you, guiding you softly into the world of dreams as the afternoon sun began its slow descent, casting a warm golden glow over the village. Leela's thoughts turned toward the softer hours of the day, those quiet moments that whispered promises of rest and gentle reflection. And the air carried the faint, sweet scent of lavender and honeysuckle, their gentle chirping a soothing melody against the hush of evening. Even the shy little hedgehog, usually hidden among the leaves, would cautiously emerge, trusting the calm presence that Leela exuded. Here, she would sit on an old wooden bench, worn smooth by years of weather. Feel the gentle breeze brushing against your skin. Hear the quiet rustling of leaves, and let your body relax into the stillness. You are safe here, wrapped in the warm embrace of kindness and calm, ready to drift peacefully into a restful sleep. Carried by the soothing presence of Leela's quiet world as twilight deepened, the village softened into a tender hush, the kind of quiet that invites whispered thoughts and gentle gestures. Leela, wrapped in a light shawl against the cooling air, moved slowly through the familiar paths she had walked countless times before. Her footsteps were careful and calm, a soft rhythm in tune with the quiet pulse of the settling night. To the stray dogs who sat patiently by the way, she offered a touch on the head or a soft murmur of comfort. The cats, graceful and aloof, brushed against her legs, their purrs like whispered lullabies. Even the smallest creatures, my mice and the birds, seemed to sense the gentleness in her presence. Allow your mind to drift gently, carried by the calm rhythm of evening as your breathing grows slow and even. Here, in these quiet corners, her care was especially needed, and she gave it freely, with the kind of quiet devotion that leaves a lasting impression on the heart. Let this gentle scene carry you softly toward rest. As your breath slows, your muscles relax, and your mind drifts deeper into calm and comfort. And let the quiet of the place wrap around her like a familiar friend. In these moments, surrounded by the gentle company of the animals she loved, she felt a profound sense of connection to the earth beneath her. The world seemed to slow even further, each breath and movement measured with intention, like the soft unfolding of a delicate flower under moonlight. She knew well that in this act there was a gentle giving that went beyond the food itself, sharing of trust, of safety, and of quiet companionship. It was this tender bond that made her rounds so much more than a chore. It was a nightly ritual of connection, weaving together the lives of human and animal in a tapestry of mutual respect. To the creatures she nurtured, and to the slow, unfolding story of life itself, Lila's heart filled with a calm warmth as she moved through this world, her world where every small kindness left a ripple of peace. It was here, in this serene spot, that many of the animals gathered to rest, seeking shelter from the last warm rays of sunlight. The animals she cared for seemed to sense this shift as well, their movements growing more languid, their eyes softening with contentment. It was a time when the bustling sounds of the day faded, replaced by a peaceful stillness that settled like a gentle blanket over the fields and streets. Lila often found herself drawn to a small clearing near the edge of the village, where the wildflowers grew tall, a pair of soft-eyed cats curled up beside her feet, their fur glistening in the fading light, while a group of sparrows flitted from branch to branch. The way Lila cared for these creatures was never hurried or forced. It was a slow dance of patience and respect. She knew the importance of letting each animal find its own comfort and peace, offering help but never demanding it. This quiet respect created a harmony that resonated deeply, not just between her and the animals, but within the very air of the village itself. As the shadows lengthened and the sky shifted from gold to soft pink and then to dusky lavender, Lila would often take a moment to reflect on the simple beauty of this everyday grace. Imagine yourself here now, in that peaceful clearing, with the soft murmur of nature all around you. With every breath, sink deeper into tranquility, letting go of any lingering tension or worry. The animals followed in their own way, some close at her heels, others weaving silently through the shadows, drawn by the promise of her evening kindness. Lila carried with her a simple basket filled with bits of bread and leftover fruit, humble offerings to those who had come to rely on her care. In the soft glow of lantern light, the village revealed new, hidden details: the shimmer of dew on leaves, the slow blink of an owl's watchful eyes, the distant hoot carrying softly on the breeze. She paused often to speak gentle words, her voice low and soothing, a quiet melody in the dark. As the night grew deeper, Lila made her way to the final stops on her route, places where the shadows grew long and the stars began to twinkle faintly overhead. And now, as you listen to this gentle story, imagine yourself walking beside Lila on this peaceful evening path, feeling the cool air on your skin, hearing the soft sounds of the night around you, and carrying in your heart the same quiet kindness. Let this gentle scene carry you softly toward rest, as your breath slows, your muscles relax, and your mind drifts deeper into calm and comfort. The night stretched on with a calm so deep it seemed to wrap around everything like a soft blanket. Lila's footsteps were nearly silent now, as if she were gliding through the darkness rather than walking. For the stray animals, the food was more than nourishment. It was a reminder that they were not forgotten, that someone cared enough to make their nights a little warmer, a little safer. Lila paused beneath an old oak tree, its wide branches reaching protectively overhead, and looked up at the stars twinkling above. Lila's presence was a calming one, a silent promise of care and kindness that eased their restless spirits. There was a peaceful rhythm to the night, a quiet order that soothed her heart and steadied her spirit. The village, tucked beneath a sky full of shimmering stars. The air was still cool and crisp, carrying the delicate scent of dew-kissed grass and blooming wildflowers that had quietly unfolded overnight. The world seemed hushed, as if still wrapped in the peaceful embrace of night's fading shadow. Each portion was placed thoughtfully for the animals she knew so well, the shy cat that liked to hide near the bakery's back door, the older dog who favored the sunlit steps of the market square, and the little birds that flitted anxiously from branch to branch. In these precious early hours, everything felt tender and full of possibility, like a delicate secret whispered just for those who cared to listen. Their cautious steps and gentle movements created a soft symphony of life, awakening a dance of trust and comfort that played out in the golden morning light. Her morning ritual was more than a simple routine. It was a sacred exchange of care. Feel the calm and warmth filling your heart as you breathe slowly and deeply, letting your mind rest in the quiet beauty of these small but meaningful moments. Let the peaceful rhythm of Lila's gentle care guide you toward a night of restful dreams and calm slumber, wrapped in the comforting embrace of kindness and calm. And gratitude, a quiet celebration of life's tender moments often overlooked by the busy world. Lila, already awake before the sun fully rose, cherished these early moments of calm, sacred time when the world felt fresh and full of gentle promise, had transformed into a world of shadow and gentle shapestrees whispered softly in the breeze. And the faint rustle of leaves seemed to hum a lullaby for all who listened closely. And the way the dew sparkled like tiny diamonds in the early light. She knew these small acts were a thread weaving her life into the tapestry of the village, a silent bond connecting her to all living creatures who shared this peaceful place. The world seemed to breathe softly around her, inviting a slow and steady rhythm that settled into her bones and soothed her soul. As she continued her nightly rounds, Lila felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing that her small acts of kindness were a beacon of light in the lives of those who depended on her. Feel yourself sinking deeper into your bed, each breath slower and softer, your body growing heavy with peaceful rest. Let the quiet comfort of the night and Lila's gentle care guide you into a calm and restful sleep. The cool night air carried the subtle scent of earth and grass, mingling with the faint aroma of wildflowers still clinging to the evening. Around her, the animals settled down, dogs curled into gentle circles. Cats found their favorite nooks, and even the shy birds nestled quietly among the branches. She softly hummed a tune, a simple melody that seemed to float in the cool night air, blending with the sounds of nature's evening song. This small music was like a gentle thread weaving all the living things together, connecting hearts across the quiet darkness. As you listen to this story, imagine the softness of the night wrapping around you like a gentle hug that quiets your thoughts and calms your mind. As the first tender light of dawn began to brush the horizon with soft hues of pink and gold, the village slowly stirred from its slumber. She moved slowly through the quiet streets, the soft crunch of her footsteps on the gravel mingling with the distant chirping of birds welcoming the new day. Lila's heart was light as she gathered small bowls and baskets filled with fresh water and nourishing food, prepared with quiet care the night before. She paused often, observing the gentle way the morning sun filtered through the leaves, casting dappled shadows on the ground. With each bowl she set down, Lila whispered soft words of kindness. Not expecting anything in return, except the quiet companionship of those who had no voice to speak, but whose eyes reflected gratitude and trust. The animals once wary in the night's shadows now emerged hesitantly, drawn by the familiar kindness and the promise of nourishment. As the sun rose higher, painting the sky with warm, gentle colors, Leela felt a deep sense of harmony and fulfillment. Now, as you lie down and prepare to drift into peaceful sleep, imagine yourself in that tranquil village at dawn, surrounded by the soft light and gentle sounds of morning. Feel the calm and warmth filling your heart as you breathe slowly and deeply, letting your mind rest in the quiet beauty of these small but meaningful moments. Let the peaceful rhythm of Lila's gentle care guide you toward a night of restful dreams and calm slumber, wrapped in the comforting embrace of kindness and calm. And golden light over the village, the bustling sounds of daily life softened into a slow, rhythmic murmur. People moved about their tasks with steady hands and peaceful hearts, weaving together the ordinary threads of their day. Yet, amidst this calm activity, Lila found her own special moments, quiet pockets of time filled with the subtle companionship of the animals she cared for so deeply. As the sun reached its gentle peak in the sky, casting a warm, Lila's heart swelled with a quiet joy, knowing that in this shared space, both she and the animals found a soothing refuge from the world's hurry. In the shade of an old, sprawling oak tree at the edge of the village square, Lila settled herself on a smooth stone bench, her breath slowing to match the gentle sway of the leaves above. The scent of lavender and freshly turned earth mingled in the air, inviting a slow, deep breath, a reminder to rest and be present in the moment. And the creatures it embraces, carrying you softly into the night's gentle embrace. The air was warm, but softened by the coolness beneath the branches, where sunlight flickered and danced like tiny fireflies caught in a gentle breeze. Feeling the warmth of the sun tempered by the cool shade, hearing the gentle sounds of nature and quiet companionship surrounding you. Each action was an expression of love for, without expectation, freely given to those who had become her silent companions. The air was rich with the scent of blooming jasmine and freshly cut hay, inviting a slow, calming breath. There was a magic in this ordinary evening, a gentle reminder that kindness, patience, and presence are the true treasures of life. It was a moment to pause to savor the simple beauty of existence, the quiet connections that thread through all living things. The stray cat stretched luxuriously before approaching the bowl, its purring a quiet melody that mingled with the distant chirping of crickets, awakening to the twilight. Nearby, the old dog settled onto a patch of soft grass, resting its weary body while still keeping a watchful eye on the world, finding peace in the security of this shared sanctuary. Their eyes, bright with trust and calm, watched as she prepared for the evening feeding, an unhurried ritual that had become as natural as the changing seasons. The soft clink of bowls, the rustle of straw bedding, and the soothing cadence of her voice blended into a lullaby of care that wrapped around the fading day like a warm, comforting shawl. Let the peace of this afternoon sanctuary settle gently over your thoughts, inviting your mind to drift slowly and serenely toward restful sleep. Feel the calmness seep into your bones, inviting a slow exhale, a deep breath, and a surrender to the quiet night, and the soothing rhythm of nature's embrace guiding you into a night filled with peaceful dreams. Around her, the world moved quietly. Children's laughter mingled with the distant clink of metal tools and the soft rustling of woven baskets. Lila's friends, the shy cat with its silken fur, the aging dog with wise eyes full of stories and warm amber. The village settled into its evening rhythm, a time of quiet reflection and gentle preparation for the night ahead. Lila, with her heart full of the day's tender moments, moved gracefully through her familiar routine, her steps light and deliberate, as if in tune with the fading light and whispering breeze. And the curious birds with their delicate songs gathered near, drawn by the calmness she radiated. They didn't rush or crowd her. Instead, they lingered with the natural ease of those who know they are safe, resting together in a shared moment of peace. with a small bowl of water set gently beside her. Lila watched as the animals approached one by one, each step measured and unhurried. The cat licked delicately, its soft purr blending with the rustling leaves, while the dog drank slowly, its tail wagging faintly in quiet contentment. The birds hopped closer, pecking gently at crumbs she had scattered with careful hands, their feathers catching the sunlight in iridescent flashes. This was a sacred time, a simple yet profound exchange of trust and care, where words were unnecessary, and the language of presence and gentleness spoke volumes. Nearby, the village itself seemed to pause, its ancient stones and cobbled paths absorbing the calm energy, holding it like a precious secret. As your eyes grow heavier and your breathing softens, imagine yourself sitting beside Lila under that great oak tree. Allow yourself to sink deeper into this moment of calm, wrapped in the tender care that flows between a kind heart. As the sun began its slow descent toward the horizon, painting the sky with hues of soft pink, lavender, the animals, sensing the subtle shift in the air, gathered once more around Lila's small cottage nestled on the village's edge. Lila's hands, gentle yet purposeful, moved with practiced grace as she scattered nourishing food and fresh water. The fading light cast long, tender shadows that danced softly across the walls of Lila's home and the worn cobblestones outside, wrapping the village in a soothing embrace. In this tranquil space, Lila often found herself lost in thought, not of worries or tudos, but of gratitude for the delicate balance that sustained her and the creatures she cared for. As your eyelids grow heavier and the world softens around you, imagine the peaceful scene unfolding the twilight hues. The soft rustling of leaves, the gentle sounds of animals settling down, let it wash over you like a gentle wave. Let this tender evening ritual lull you gently toward rest, cradling your mind in the warmth of care and the soothing rhythm of nature's embrace, guiding you into a night filled with peaceful dreams, as darkness softly settled over the village, wrapping the world in a velvety cloak sprinkled with twinkling stars. The gentle hum of nighttime life began its subtle symphony. The air cooled, carrying with it the faint fragrance of earth and dew, while distant owls called softly, their voices weaving through the stillness like a quiet lullaby. The flicker of candlelight cast gentle shadows that danced lightly on the walls, lending the room a soft golden glow. The quiet crackle of the hearth fire, accompanied by the gentle tapping of rain beginning to fall outside, created a cozy atmosphere that whispered comfort and safety. Here, in this sanctuary of warmth and light, the worries of the day melted away. In this serene moment, the village seemed to breathe slowly, deeply, inviting all who lived there to relax into the calm embrace of night. Know that kindness and care, like the quiet night, are always near, waiting to soothe your mind and cradle your dreams. The air was cool and fresh, carrying the delicate scent of blooming wildflowers and moist earth, a gentle reminder of the night's rain nurturing the soil. Her hands, weathered yet tender, reached for the wooden bowl filled with cool water, prepared the night before. She opened the door slowly, letting in the fresh breeze that carried the song of the morning. Around her, the small sanctuary she had nurtured stirred softly then. Chickens clucked gently as they pecked at the ground. The cats stretched lazily, and the stray dogs wagged their tails with quiet gratitude. Neighbors exchanged quiet greetings across garden fences, and children's laughter floated faintly from a distance, carried on the breeze like tiny bells of joy. The world felt calm and whole, wrapped in the soft warmth of a community bound by shared care and gentle routines. Each creature greeted her with a look of trust, their eyes reflecting the peaceful bond they shared. Imagine the cool touch of the water on your skin, the fresh morning air brushing softly against your face. Allow your thoughts to soften, your body to relax, and your mind to drift peacefully, cradled in the gentle cycles of kindness and care that define this quiet life. Picture the animals gathering around, their eyes full of quiet affection, and hear the tender sounds of a world beginning anew. Let this calm start fill you with a deep sense of peace and readiness to rest again whenever you choose. She carefully washed her face, the droplets refreshing and pure, carrying away the remnants of sleep. The sound of water softly splashing was like a melody, mingling with the faint songs of early birds perched outside her window. This quiet awakening was like a whispered promise of a new day, filled with gentle possibilities and simple joys. Let this calmness guide you softly now into the restful peace of night's gentle hold. Lila took a sturdy basket and filled it with scraps of bread, fresh grains, and a few scraps of meat saved from the previous day's humble cooking. Every portion was offered with care, placed thoughtfully where each animal would find it easily and safely. She moved slowly, aware that this simple act was more than feeding. It was a language of kindness spoken without words. Inside her humble cottage, Lila moved with a peaceful purpose, tending to the final tasks before rest. Outside, the animals found their places of rest, nestling into straw beds, curling beneath bushes, or lying peacefully under the canopy of ancient trees. Each creature, from the smallest sparrow to the graceful fox, trusted in the protection and men who, like her, had found ways to nurture and care in quiet acts of kindness. She imagined their hands gently feeding hungry mouths, their voices whispering comfort in dark times, their hearts beating steady in the rhythm of compassion. These echoes of the past mingled with the present, weaving a timeless tapestry of love and care. And care Lila provided, and in return, they brought a sense of companionship and gentle harmony to her life. Feel the softness of the darkness, the coolness of the gentle rain, and the warmth of the glowing fire. Let your breathing slow, matching the calm pulse of this quiet world, and feel your body sink deeper into rest. Imagine yourself wrapped in a soft blanket, surrounded by the tender presence of the night's creatures, safe and serene. Their soft breaths and occasional rustles became a tender soundtrack to the unfolding night. Lila's thoughts drifted to the forgotten stories of those who had walked this land before her women. As you listen, allow yourself to be carried away by the soothing cadence of this peaceful night. With every slow breath, drift further from the day's concerns and closer to the gentle embrace of sleep. As the first tender light of dawn tiptoed over the horizon, painting the sky with soft hues of pink and gold, the village slowly stirred awake. Lila's cottage came alive with soft movements as she rose from her straw mattress, stretching gently to greet the morning. With the warmth of a soft cloth drying her skin, Lila turned her thoughts toward the animals she cared for. Preparing their morning meal was a sacred ritual woven from patience and love. The village itself seemed to pause in this moment, a place where life moved at a pace dictated by nature's gentle rhythms rather than hurried clocks. As you listen to this peaceful morning scene, feel yourself waking gently, as if through a dream. Breathe slowly, deeply, feeling the gentle unfolding of the day mingled with the quiet promise of night's return. Allow your thoughts to soften, your body to relax, and your mind to drift peacefully, cradled in the gentle cycles of kindness and care that define this quiet life. As the day began to wane and the sun dipped lower in the sky, painting the world with hues of amber and lavender, a gentle hush fell over the village. The hustle and bustle of the daytime softened into a peaceful calm, where every sound seemed slower, softer, like the world itself was exhaling after a long, warm breath. The soft glow of a single oil lamp flickered against the wooden walls, casting gentle shadows that danced slowly like old memories. Her heart was full of gratitude for their presence, these gentle souls who had come to trust her kindness without words or expectation. She prepared a small feast of leftovers and fresh water, placing the bowls carefully outside her door. The animals gathered as if on silent paws and soft snuffles mingling with the evening's calm. Picture the gentle creatures gathering, their eyes bright with gratitude and trust, their breaths slow and steady. Let this moment soothe your heart and mind, guiding you softly toward sleep's gentle embrace, where dreams bloom quietly in the stillness. Feel the calm wrap around you like a warm shawl, inviting you to breathe deeply and slowly, releasing all tension and welcoming peaceful rest. The gentle glow of the moon bathed the village in a soft, silver light, casting delicate shadows that seemed to sway in time with the whispering breeze. Nightfall had arrived quietly, like a gentle lullaby, wrapping the earth in its tender embrace and inviting all creatures to rest. Each creature approached with a quiet reverence, their eyes meeting hers in a silent exchange of thanks and trust. The night was alive with the subtle sounds of nature, the distant call of an owl, the rustle of leaves, the gentle murmur of a nearby stream, all weaving a serene symphony that cradled the night in softness. And love, a reminder that even in the smallest deeds, there is a profound beauty. Let the quiet promise of kindness, trust, and gentle care guide you softly toward a restful sleep, where dreams are tender and calm, and your spirit feels light and free. Feel the soothing scents of herbs drifting gently through the air, calming your mind and relaxing your body. Picture the peaceful village bathed in moonlight, the world at rest, safe and serene. She often sat by the window, gazing out at the sleeping village, where soft lights twinkled like fireflies in the dark, and the world felt still, peaceful, and infinitely gentle. The familiar warmth of the hearth flickered gently, casting a comforting glow that danced upon the walls and filled the room with a sense of home and safety. She lit a small bundle of fragrant herbs, their soft smoke curling upward, weaving a subtle tapestry of calming scents. Lavender, chamomile, and sage-dat filled the air with tranquility. It was this sacred hour, the time when the day's tasks faded and the night's rest began to weave its comforting blanket around the world. In these simple acts, she found a profound connection that reached beyond the surface of daily life, a silent promise of care and kindness that echoed through every breath and heartbeat. The air cooled, carrying with it the faint, earthy aroma of the garden and the distant rustle of leaves in the evening breeze. Inside her humble cottage, Lila moved with a graceful quietness, her actions deliberate and tender. Before settling in for the night, Lila's thoughts turned once more to the animals she cared for. There was something deeply soothing in this ritual, a quiet affirmation that kindness created a web of connection that stretched beyond words or boundaries. Lila often found herself watching the stars begin to peek through the darkening sky, feeling a profound peace settle in her chest. The simple act of feeding stray animals, something so small in the vastness of the world, became a daily meditation of love, compassion, and hope. Outside, the village's sounds slowed to a near whisper and occasional bark. The flutter of wings, the gentle creak of wooden shutters closing for the night. In this gentle quiet, one could almost hear the heartbeat of the earth, steady and sure. It was a time to let go of worries and allow the soul to rest, cradled by the soft night. As you listen now, imagine yourself standing beside Lila's door, feeling the cool evening air brush softly against your skin. Allow your thoughts to drift gently, carried on the calm currents of evening kindness and quiet connection. As the last traces of twilight faded, the sky deepened into a velvety blanket of navy and indigo, studded with countless shimmering stars. Inside her cottage, Lila prepared for the coming night with slow, careful movements. Her thoughts wandered to the day's quiet moments, the soft nuzzles of the animals, the trust reflected in their eyes, the gentle rhythm of shared companionship. Lila's evening routine was more than a task. It was a ritual of gratitude. Outside, the animals rested contentedly near her door, their quiet presence a balm to the soul. As you listen now, imagine the calm night wrapping around you like a velvet cloak, its quiet promises inviting you to let go of the day's worries. Allow yourself to sink deeper into this moment, breathing slowly and deeply as the night whispers its lullaby. Let the quiet promise of kindness, trust, and gentle care guide you softly toward a restful sleep, where dreams are tender and calm, and your spirit feels light and free. As the night deepened and stars twinkled gently overhead, Lila's cottage became a sanctuary of calm and tenderness. The day's busyness had melted away, replaced by a soothing quiet that wrapped around her like a warm blanket. In these peaceful hours, she practiced her quiet ritual of evening care time, not just for tending to the animals, but also for nurturing her own spirit. Each evening, before settling down to rest, Lila would prepare small bowls of soft grains and fresh water, placing them carefully outside where the animals could find them easily. She arranged the bowls with gentle hands, mindful of every detail, knowing that these simple offerings were acts of love and connection. The sense of baking bread and ripened fruit mingled with the soft herbal smoke from the hearth, creating an atmosphere of comfort and contentment that settled deep into her bones. Let the gentle sounds of night lull your mind into a state of calm, the quiet ritual of care inspiring a deep sense of peace. Breathe in the comforting sense of hearth and garden, and breathe out any tension or unrest. She listened to the gentle sounds of the village settling down, the soft creak of wooden shutters, the distant bark of a dog, the flutter of wings as a night bird found its perch. Know that in this quiet moment you are safe, cared for, and connected to a world filled with gentle kindness and soft, glowing light. Her quiet kindness, her steadfast care for the forgotten creatures of the streets, became a gentle legacy, whispered softly by the wind through the trees and carried in the peaceful hearts of many. Let this feeling cradle you as you drift slowly and softly toward restful sleep. These small, gentle noises were like a tender song, comforting and familiar. Let her quiet strength soothe your mind, and her soft footsteps guide you gently toward dreams where kindness blooms endlessly. The moonlight would catch the silver of the water's surface, making it shimmer like a pool of liquid light in the cool night air. The night is kind, the world is gentle, and you are safe. The animals she cared for, the soft purr of cats, the gentle murmur of birds, the quiet scurry of small paws, all found comfort because of her tender hands and generous spirit. Inside, she carefully cleaned and prepared her own simple meal. A humble feast of freshly baked bread, mild cheese, and sweet fruits from her garden. It is in these peaceful moments under the vast, starlit sky that we remember how simple kindness can light even the darkest places, and how one gentle soul can make a lasting difference. In these moments, the worries of the world seem to fade away, replaced by a serene understanding that kindness, even in its simplest form, creates ripples that reach far beyond what we see. With the household quiet and the animals nourished, Lila would sit by the window, wrapped in a soft shawl, and gaze out into the night. Her thoughts drifted to the animals she cared for, their quiet eyes, the soft brush of fur against her palms, the trust that blossomed between them. As you imagine this scene, feel the slow, peaceful rhythm of evening falling softly around you. Allow your body to relax further, sinking gently into your bed as the night wraps you in its gentle embrace. As the night deepened and the village lay wrapped in soft shadows, Lila's story settled gently into the hearts of all who knew it, and even those who had yet to hear it. In the stillness of this night, imagine the gentle rustle of leaves as a cool breeze drifts softly past, as if carrying a secret message of love and hope. Lila's story is a reminder that sometimes the smallest acts, done with the greatest love, ripple out quietly, changing the world in ways unseen but deeply felt. So as you lay your head down tonight, wrapped in warmth and calm, let the memory of Lila's gentle heart fill you with peace. Feel the calm of this moment wrap around you like a soft cloak, and let your breath slow, deep, and steady. Drift now, softly, sweetly, into a restful sleep carried on the quiet wings of this peaceful story. Good night.